Cemeteries are places traditionally associated with death, but here, in the Victorian Cemetery in Falmouth, it is life that has found a way to prosper. This is a tale of letting plants do their thing, and the incredible invertebrates that help them along their way. Here in amongst the graves, things may seem unkempt, not well managed. But as you take a second to look around, you begin to see the sheer quantity of life that makes the graveyard its home. In this short, we'll look at an interaction that takes place here in the cemetery between two feisty inverts, one of which can be found nowhere else in Cornwall. But first, we'll explore how this site has become so biodiverse with just one simple change in management. The most important tool in improving biodiversity anywhere are our little green friends, the plants, particularly in the environment that they're found in here, the wildflower meadow. Wildflower meadows are an iconic image of the British countryside. However, the modern standard of lawns favours shortcut grass with very little to no variation in plant life, which has aided a loss of 97% of wildflower meadows in the UK since the 1930s. But here, the grasses remain uncut and life has been able to flourish, creating scenery which I would argue far surpasses that of a well-mown lawn. There are so many fascinating invertebrates that are helped by the living lawns here in the cemetery that it was hard to choose one to focus on. But in the end, we decided to focus on some solitary bees that make their home here. Out of the 275 UK bee species, only 27 are bumblebees, and there is only one species of honeybee. The rest are classed as solitary, living alone rather than in groups, and carry out the majority of pollination. The two species of bee that are so special in our cemetery belong to the mining bee and nomad bee families respectively. Mining bees, like this one pictured, nest in holes in the ground and are generally hairy and slightly smaller than honeybees. Nomad bees, like this one, are known as cuckoo bees. They lay their eggs in the nests of mining bees, getting their offspring raised by the unsuspecting parents, similar to cuckoos in the world of birds. So that's what generally happens between mining bees and nomad bees. But here in the cemetery there's a particularly scarce interaction which happens only here in Cornwall and is scarce nationwide. To tell us a little bit more about this is a local bee enthusiast, Kevin Thomas.
Hello, Humphrey.
Hello, Kevin. So what's so interesting about this particular interaction?
I think it shows how life loves variety. So we have a solitary bee nest, but it's not solitary because this species of mining bee, the big-headed mining bee, is a solitary bee that shares a communal entrance. So all the bees enter through one or perhaps two or three different entrances. But then once they're underground, they go off and branch off and dig a separate tunnel into which they construct their nesting chambers. The other interesting interaction happening here is that of a very rare species of cuckoo bee. This cuckoo bee, Nomada hirtipes, will try and sneak into the nesting site of the mining bees, find a chamber that has been provisioned and an egg laid in, and then will lay its egg besides the egg of the parent bee. The parent bee returns, seals off the nest. Both eggs hatch. Now, the larva from the Nomada has specially adapted jaws. So the first thing it eats is the bee larvae. Having had a meat course, it then moves on to dessert and has a sweet pollen and nectar course, the bee bread, which originally was intended for the bee larva. And that's one of the special things that happens here. A solitary bee that's communal, not social, using the same entrance, and the behaviour of the appearance of this cuckoo bee, which is only known from this site in Cornwall, 2 others in Devon, and then there's a few more in the south of England, up into Wales.
Thanks so much for that, Kevin. That was fascinating.
Pleasure.
I really learnt a lot about the special interaction that happens here between the mining and the nomad bees. And I hope you at home have learnt a little too, about the meadows here in the cemetery and what they do to help the biodiversity, and the bees, which you might not always think about as the important bees that help with pollination. That's all from us here today, but look forward to more Nature Watch in the coming year. We've got lots planned, and I hope you're going to like it. Thank you and goodbye.